Eighth graders, welcome. It's Mr. K. How are you? Hope you're doing okay. Welcome to day 3 of distance learning. Hope all your drawing lessons, hope all your school lessons for that matter are going well. We're going to continue our Looney Tunes theme. We drew Bugs Bunny originally, and I had asked you to expand upon that, add some creative details on day 2. So here comes day 3. We're going to draw Tweety Bird. And you can decide at the end of the week what your favorite piece is, and that's how we're going to assess you. You're going to post your favorite piece for the week to Google Classroom, and we'll assess it according to the 4 categories that we've been using in class: design, effort, neatness, and technique. There's my basic pencil. There's my large pink eraser. There's my Sharpie for the end of our cartoon. We will make the lines real nice and crisp and sharpen them up and create a nice finished piece. Okay, so let's get started on Tweety Bird. Here's my large sheet of blank paper, and let me wipe it clean here. Okay, I'm going from some slides here, so I'm going to kind of flip through as I work, but as I work, I'm going to remind you about the gestural lines. Don't worry about being in any one particular spot, just kind of get close. So here's the top of Tweety Bird's head, back and forth like a rainbow. We're going to taper it on the sides, and we're going to kind of flatten it on the bottom. Not pressing real hard on my pencil, because we're going to erase some of these marks before we're all done. I'm going to make a light line down the center here and a slightly curvy line to create 4 quadrants on the face. There's a little bit of extra space up top here because if you've seen Tweety Bird, you know he's got kind of a big upper portion to his head going on. Okay, alright, so we're going to use these lines here that we set up to help us locate Tweety Bird's eyes, and they are very much elongated ovals, half above this center line and half below this center line. And again, just kind of tiptoeing in and around the area, trying to determine where I want those final marks to be. Okay, now there's going to be an interesting feature to the bottom of these ovals. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of flatten them at the bottom, because that will be where his eyes meet his cheeks. Okay, let's move along to the next slide here. What we're going to do is we're going to create the rest of those cheeks by making a couple curvy lines on both sides of his face. Now he's got a very compacted chin compared to the rest of his face, so we're working these cheeks around. This one kind of has like a C shape. This one has kind of like a backwards C shape. They're close in size. They don't have to be perfectly the same. And then in the middle will be kind of a smiley shape for his chin. Okay? Alright, now before I go any further, let me see, I'm going to clean up some of these lines that we no longer need. Okay. Get rid of a few of these on the side. I accidentally erased something here that I kind of needed, so I'll just go ahead and put it back. That's the beauty of sketching. You can always go back and fix whatever little mistake you made. Okay. Alright, let's move along here to the next slide. We're going to kind of refine the sides of Tweety's face, moving up into his head a little bit. So you can see I kind of arced in a little bit here. I veered off from the original line on this side, and I'm going to do the same on this other piece here. I'm going to kind of arc it in a little bit, and then eventually it'll meet up with the original line. And you guessed it, I'm going to take my eraser and eliminate the part that we no longer need. Okay, alright, next slide. We're going to start on the beak here. And it's a good thing we got a center line here, because that'll keep us focused on where we would like the bird beak to go. So there's a little rainbow shape there. And I'm going to cut in with a right angle here. Okay, and straight down with that right angle. Okay, to the bottom of the chin. We're going to put a little hook on the bottom. Wrap that around like the letter J. And it's going to widen a little bit at the top where it meets that original rainbow shape. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is get rid of that bottom portion of the chin, which we no longer need. Okay, next slide. Looks like we're working on the eyes a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is going to kind of sharpen them up a little bit. They taper and narrow at the bottom towards the cheeks. That little piece there we no longer need, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. Now I'm going to keep in line with this original horizontal line that we had made earlier, and I'm going to use that as a reference point, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up a little bit above that with one of the inside ovals for Tweety's eye. Okay, so there's going to be one oval there, and again I'm going to come up a little higher than that reference mark, so I'm going to wrap this oval around towards the bottom. Okay, and these eyes are similar. They're certainly not perfect. Just do your best. Try to stay in line with what I'm doing here. Okay? Alright, let's see. Next slide. We're going to put in the center part of Tweety's eye here. Okay, with another little oval. One on each side. And it's not quite reaching that original reference line that we had made earlier. It's getting close to it, but not quite there. Okay. Alright. Sharpen my pencil here a little bit, pardon me. Okay. That'll give me a little bit of a better tip with which to work. Okay. Alright, now a couple other things here before we move along. I'm going to erase the top portion of those C formations. Remember we said this one's like the frontward C, and this one was like a backwards C. Okay, and I'm going to just put a little wrinkle there on each side of Tweety's face. Okay, so I eliminated that formation that we had done earlier, and I'm not going to eliminate all of it though. We're going to leave some of it there. Okay, and as you can probably tell by now, when I do my drawings, I just kind of go back and forth a little bit. If I see a little inconsistency or something that I want to even up or make a little better, I'll just kind of hop around and do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, that's a part of the evolution of a drawing, making it nice and polished as you continue to move forward and work on it. I'm going to flatten off the top of the head just a little. Okay, and I've got some extra lines up here that I can kind of do away with at this point. Okay, alright, let's see here. It's got some little, I guess they're indications of baby feathers. So I don't want to call them hairs. I don't know that I want to call them feathers either. They're just kind of somewhere in between. There's a little mark there, indicative of, I think, maybe some eyebrows. And it's got some long eyelashes, 3 to be exact, on each side. And this particular eyelash is overlapping the eyebrow, no big deal. And the same thing's going to happen over here when I put in these eyelashes. If they happen to overlap the eyebrow, so be it, no big deal. Okay, alright, next slide. The inner portion of the mouth. Okay, so here was this right angle piece here. We're going to kind of work off of that with a curvy line, and that's going to give us a real nice indication that his mouth is open. So that's the top part to the beak. Okay, now here's kind of like the side of the open beak coming down, and it's going to be met by this bottom portion that moves its way up and connects right about there with the top portion. Okay, and there's an indication of the cheek meeting the mouth a little bit here. Okay, so if you've got the edge of that beak kind of sticking out there, you can eliminate it. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to give Tweety a tongue on the inside like that. Okay, alright, now a couple final details here. We're going to shade in the eyes. You know I like to do little highlights before we darken in those pupils. So I'm going to save a little space. I'm going to make this one a little bigger, pardon me. So I'm going to save a little space for the highlight, and we'll darken that in. Okay. Hope you're enjoying yourself. I hope it's a time where you can kind of lose yourself in your art and forget about some of the craziness of the world. I know myself personally, I really enjoy working in my studio, and sometimes I lose all track of time. Take a little bit of this edge off here and make this eye a little bit wider at the bottom, just a little bit. I want the pupil to be not touching the edge of that eye, if that makes sense to you. Okay, so looking pretty good here. We're gonna, I think, hit it up with some Sharpie here, and then I think we'll be done. Okay, so I'm gonna come on down here on the chubby cheeks. And we'll connect that to the beak. Okay, then what we'll do is we'll come on up here, widen out the head, and I'm even going a little wider than I had originally intended, which is fine because I'll erase out that remaining pencil graphite. And I'll do the same thing over here. I might come out just a smidgen wider. Okay, I messed up a little bit there at the top, but you know what? I'm just going to go with it. Okay, it's all good. Here's the little wisps of baby bird feathers. Let's darken up this beak. Okay, cheek. You guys at home, maybe you're playing some music or got the TV on in the background to inspire you as you work. It's always a nice thing. I go in phases. Sometimes I like to work in silence. Sometimes I like the background noise. Just depends. And as we move forward through these days, we'll develop a system that's workable for all of us. Okay, so, oops, I touched that line there. I didn't want to do that, but that's the life of an artist. You got to adjust as you go. Okay, I'm going to be careful around those highlights. Make sure I don't get too close because I don't want them to bleed out. Okay, so let's hit this up with an eraser now. And I'll be interested to see which cartoons you guys select by the end of the week. And I know I'll enjoy them all, whatever you guys decide to post, because that's part of the fun of my job, getting to see what you guys produce. Alright, so let's see here. I'm going to make sure I sign this to remind you guys to do the same. And remember, this doesn't have to be your only drawing of Tweety. You can practice again and again, and you can adapt and refine and extend and enrich your artistic piece tomorrow. Like I said, I'll give you 2 days to work on this, and if you want to draw Tweety Bird in his cage, he lives in Grandma's house, by the way. They call her Granny, I think. Sylvester's always seen with Tweety, so I don't know if you want to put Sylvester in. You can give Tweety Bird a body. You can have him flying in the air. There's any number of possibilities that you can do to this particular cartoon that's going to make it look really, really wonderful and nice. So I look forward to your cartoons moving forward. Thanks for being such great listeners. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we will be talking to you very, very soon. And as always, happy drawing. Take care now. Thanks. Bye-bye.